Okay, well, welcome everyone to the Ayer Council on Aging Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, October 17th. Got to read the boilerplate. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirements that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the bodies and deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID number 884-8642-6478 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. Okay, with that out of the way, the meeting is called to order, I guess. Is there anything else I need to do to get into order?
Also the order at the time.
Public input. Any input from the public?
Yeah, you're the public today.
Anyone on the public? No. Okay.
I have a wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a guest? I'd like to put her name down.
Yeah, my name's Marge Withy.
Okay. Very good. And then there's Sister Paula, Katie, Carol, and Dennis and me. Okay, very good.
Sister Paul, can you hear Janine? Or no? She's
I
on
will.
the screen.
I will turn it up.
Okay, or if you want, you can go sit next to Dennis so you'd be a little closer to the speaker. It's not real loud. Okay.
I've been sent to the office to the principal.
I just want you to be able to hear everybody. My speaker is not intended for this purpose on my laptop, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the first item on the agenda is the staffing update.
Sure. So Denise started on the 27th, and she has, as our new nutrition coordinator, working 20 hours a week from 10 to 2, and she's doing a fantastic job. She's really kind of jumped in and gone full speed. She's been working on the September menu already, and really quickly able to take over serving the meals. And she's done a great job helping to reorganize the kitchen cabinets to make it more in line with what we're doing. There was a lot of cooking equipment in there that I had been through last year, but it needed another thing. There's no reason to have all that out there if we're not cooking in the kitchen. Instead, we've made it accessible for the things we're really using. So she's done a great job with that. Let's see. The outreach coordinator and per diem driver positions have not yet been posted. There's just a lot of positions at town hall. They are aware of it and supportive. It's just a matter of waiting in line to get there. And then working group is meeting to discuss, there's a draft job description for the social worker, and everyone's has this week to provide inputs on that job description, and then that group will meet next week. And that's the fire chief, police chief, myself, the assessor's office, economic and community development, and then of course the town manager and assistant town manager. Those are the 5 departments that are anticipated to interact most often with the social worker. So they're all getting to provide input on the job description. We're just finalizing the job description, so it hasn't been posted yet or anything like that. And it's very comprehensive. So I'm excited. Will be a lot of work and a lot of coverage. So you know, I think the potential is great.
Do we know who will the social worker be reporting to you? Or
The
police
social
chief, or-
worker is going to be a department of one and will report directly to the town manager. But they will be part of their expectations will be that they are interacting with each of our departments, the 5 departments I listed, on specific tasks, and the specific tasks per the specific department are listed in the job description. So it's very specific what the person is getting themselves into with this role. So which I always think is great, set good, clear expectations up front. There's no formal decision yet on where that person will be housed. Informal discussions have talked about it, him or her being here. So I'm kind of laying the groundwork as I go to make that happen too. I think that would be fantastic. That's it for staffing.
Okay, so do we know when the social worker will be posted? Are we talking
So-
weeks, months?
That I don't know. So this week was to provide feedback. I provided mine the same day that it came out, as did one of the other departments. That I think they want to meet next week to discuss and finalize all that. So, gosh, I would think it would be posted in maybe another 3 weeks or a month. That's all. That's true.
I have a question. I missed the name of the new employee who's the food coordinator.
Denise Galvin.
Okay. I think I should put that in the minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
sure. What was your question? Sorry, girl.
Oh, who was chairing?
Who's chairing? So I believe Carly is in charge of the posting and the coordination of all that. And then obviously the town manager is the person who has the hiring authority. Yeah. And that's one of the things I think we'll discuss in the meeting next week is that a 2-person job? Is that a committee hiring? I don't know what since it's a new department, I don't know what the rules are for that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they will move reasonably expeditiously to fill the position, and then have them settled and their tasks assigned. I mean, for our purposes, my concern would be that with the involvement of the assessor, police chief, fire chief, that the social workers' obligations to the senior center and that will become diluted over time.
So that's something that needs to be managed, and that's part of what I think the meeting is next week, is setting, okay, if this person is 40 hours a week, are we divvying up their hours and they will be dedicated hours? Will it be more free flowing? I mean, I would prefer something more detailed and specific. And then I have, the outreach coordinator to hire as well. And so that will be a piece of this too, is how to delineate what an outreach coordinator does and what we need a social worker for, because we can really expand our reach if we're, strategic about what the social worker does versus what the outreach coordinator does.
Yes, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So hopefully that will
Yeah.
bear fruit.
Yes.
Going forward. Is there anything in that regard that would be helpful for you to have from the board?
I don't think so. I think that's coming along pretty well on its own. I'm certainly open to inputs as far as if you have any particular concerns you want me to bring back to that group, or
Well,
you're wondering how the time sharing is going to work.
yeah, I mean, that was with, and again, it was my understanding that the position as initially envisioned was, the need for it was generated from the council on from the senior center and from the police chief, that they jointly felt that there was a need for this and that they would be working cooperatively. It would appear that to some extent that has expanded to include some other town departments. The reason, so again, what I would say for our purposes, that is the senior center, the extent to which the social worker can be meeting the needs of the seniors in the town and addressing concerns that are raised in this committee or by the board or during your work day is kind of critical to us.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we can use that position and the outreach coordinator and have a clear understanding in our own minds about what each does, you know, that's all to the good. It would appear that the other departments involved, to a substantial degree, have substantial assets of their own that they have acquired over many years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies by the department, and the only additions to that, and I'm gonna take this back to the group. I'm also gonna give you my sort of initial reaction to it, right? So my understanding is adding the assessor's office or economic and community development. I think the assessor's office was always on the list. Economic and community development is a recent add, but it makes sense to me. Because, for example, if someone is in arrears on their taxes and there's a lot of back and forth with the assessor's office trying to collect, and then there's these extenuating circumstances, and the assessor's like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not trained in all of these things that are the reasons that they're not paying their taxes. And so in that case, their involvement with the social worker would be like, okay, I have this resident, they've got this whole thing going on. It sounds like they need some services. Can you follow up with them? So the amount of time that would take in their interaction with that department head is small. It is likely that now, obviously, once they're on the social worker's case management role, that's much more time consuming. But if they're serving all of the residents of the town, if it's an older adult, they were probably already on my case role anyway. So there's going to be some overlap there. So I think, and the same thing for economic development, someone to work along with all of the housing projects that are being planned and in the works to sort of be an eye for at a more of a 10,000 foot level was my understanding. How if you had a social worker in on some of these projects from the beginning, they might be able to help avoid some common pitfalls. So my understanding is the school has their own social workers, their own counselors, their own things. The only place there would be that I'm aware of that there would be overlap there is I had asked for the social worker to be a liaison between me and the schools for the grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. Yeah. And so that there could be services. The school obviously can assist the child and the family to some degree, but they're focused on the child. Whereas I can try and address the needs of the older adult. I can't have much impact on the child, so that if the social workers from both organizations are working together, they can maximize the benefit that we can provide in that specific situation.
I think to me that it seems to me that if you, like if the fire department or the police department needed a social worker, it would be like an on-call sort of thing that they would need someone then. But to have someone for a block of time, I don't know that would be, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's so, I think the decision to have the social worker work under Robert directly and be a department of one was just kind of thought it would work best that way.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for someone to be departmental, multidisciplinary, that does make sense.
Usually if somebody's in a crisis, they're taken to a hospital, taken to a treatment center, found help. So how does that affect?
So, the situations that require police, fire, social work intervention are complex, right? They have a lot of facets to them. So, and I'm gonna pick a bad example, right? But like someone's in crisis, they are drunk and disorderly, let's say. And again, don't quote me on this, but and so police is involved or fire is involved and there's an acute intervention there. Well, if it's a pattern of behavior, it probably has to do with an underlying substance abuse problem, housing problem, domestic violence situation, whatever. So you can have an initial response, but then you can need case management for all of those underlying and contributing situations. And so you're trying to provide case management services to prevent the next acute thing.
But unless they don't have insurance, they usually. Oh, unless they don't have insurance, they're usually taken to a hospital. Taken to a treatment center, the hospital will find them.
I don't.
mean, that's what, in my deal in the past.
I don't even want to begin to
I know.
speculate about how public safety does their job. They do their job and they do it very, very well. And this is designed to augment and better complement what they're already providing. And again, that's part of what that meeting will be. I don't think our role is necessarily to weigh in on what the other departments will do, but just how do we manage what our expectations are and what are we asking for in terms of time and those sorts of things. The tasks, the tasks are already laid out. Robert had asked for my opinion about those months and months ago, helping people fill out applications. I can do some of those things, but when someone comes in, it's easily an hour just to get things set up to do that. And so someone who's dedicated to do that with dedicated hours, that frees me up to do other things. I will still be doing those tasks. But being a liaison with the school, being a liaison with aging services of North Central Mass, helping people get the really suite of services that they need. Case management is what helps. And I've got 30 favorite places that I like to refer people to, but a social worker who does this for a living has got a much deeper toolbox and a much more comprehensive knowledge about what could really help an individual customer.
I was thinking, I was trying to get someone to the hospital, and we called the police, and she was gonna commit suicide. And the police came, and we finally got her in the ambulance. But we could have certainly used a social worker. I thought that would have been really good.
Well, and and I don't have any idea what role. I think that's part of what has to be worked out is how will they be. Crisis management is included in the current job description, so I think it will take some time to get this person in the role and say how often are they doing crisis management, how often are they providing case management, how often are they acting as a liaison. And then the way that their time is distributed may shift and morph over time. Who knows? So, I mean, at least initially, if we didn't have a town social worker, I would have tried to hire a social worker as my outreach coordinator. Now I probably won't feel as required to do that, but there would certainly be nothing wrong with having.
It might be helpful to talk with some of the other towns that do have town social workers. I know Lincoln has one, I'm pretty sure Lincoln. And just get a back of the envelope idea of how much time they're spending doing whatever. Because it's a new position for the town, it's going to be some growing pain. But I would think that some other towns will be able to They don't do that often, but they usually end up doing this. And so that might be helpful.
Yeah, I could just bring you the to your day.
And I don't know that
Yeah.
all,
That's a good idea.
I don't know that all towns necessarily have them, but, you know, I'm sure you'll be able to find out.
I think a lot of towns have added them in the last year or two, more so than there used to be. I'm not saying most towns don't have one probably, but a lot of towns I have heard have added either a social worker or what they're calling a community services liaison, which is effectively the same thing. So, yeah, all right. Awesome.
What I think is interesting, the wall is talking, is if we can get this person started, you know, that first 6 months or a year will be a very important time to start tracking and keeping statistics and, you know, maybe advocate for a second one at some point. Because it does look like this person is going to have a lot of duties. And if we can justify even getting, you know, another part-time person at some point, it'll be very interesting to see the first 6 months to a year, how it plays out. But I think the most important thing is to get them on board.
Right, yep. It's always, I always say it's always easier to edit than it is to create. And so, you know, you get the person on board, get them going, and then you allow it to grow and evolve as you go. So.
Okay. Anything else on staffing? Next item is minutes. I must say I have been remiss in writing up the minutes from our last meeting. So I would ask that we defer the approval of those until I get a chance to do the minutes. The other thing, well, and I will be in touch with Carolyn. She mentioned that there were minutes that still needed to be voted on from March on. In order to be, and they have to be sent to, I think.
I thought we were all caught up on minutes, but if anybody needs copies of ones that I did, let me know. And I am taking minutes now. I can hear everyone. It's really a very good connection.
Oh, good. Yeah, Carolyn sent me either an email or a text indicating that in order for them to be posted, they hadn't been voted on yet. But you're right. Now that you mention it, Janine, I think that we did, in fact, vote to catch up on the meeting minutes.
As far as I knew, we were all caught up, but if you need anything and we need to vote, that, you know, we can do that.
Okay.
Also, I have never, shouldn't say never, I don't receive the minutes, so I haven't seen the minutes the last couple of meetings.
Well, you wouldn't have the one from the last meeting because I haven't done them.
But I know that,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
you said that, yeah. So.
Sister Paula, if there's any you need, why don't you call me and I can get them in print to you?
Oh, okay. All
Because
right.
I've been visiting a couple of times with my dog. So I'll put them in Fritz's mouth and, you know, Fritz can run them down the hall to you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And now for the director's report. So I guess, well, actually, that was the first item, so we can skip over the
Right.
staffing.
Yep, so, all right, so for my report, the first, then said staffing, we've already discussed. Budget, we're in the beginning of the fiscal year, so I'm still in that, the sky is the limit kind of place. So we are gonna have a little bit of flexibility in the budget already because we're budgeted for the outreach coordinator and the per diem driver. And so we have July and August of that person's salary as they have not been hired yet. So, and then we used to reimburse Debbie a considerable sum in mileage to deliver the Meals on Wheels. And that was, my understanding is that was part of the union contract for mileage. Whereas now we have a wonderful set of volunteers delivering Meals on Wheels. So that removed that expense from the budget as well. Which turned out to be lucky because the van accident ended up being classified as 2 accidents. So I have 2 deductibles to pay And part of the learning curve for me as director, this is, you know, I had the predecessor's budget before, and then I'm learning as I go as far as what's in, because we hadn't had an accident before. The town doesn't carry a line in insurance for deductibles. It comes out of the department, whereas public safety have a line item in their budget for deductibles. I didn't realize that was part of a department budget. In different towns, they may do it different ways. So I will be using that wage line towards that. And then for next fiscal year, I will make sure to have that as a line item in the budget. And then the other part that may work out is, as you know, we have 2 offices here, and they are furnished with adequate furniture that I would not do anything with, except that in the next few months, we will go from having 3 people to 5 people in that space. So we need to reconfigure, not walls, reconfigure workstations, and perhaps go to actual workstations that are efficient and effective and have cabinets up top and drawers below, just to fit everybody in, so that everybody has the space they need to be productive. So that was also, I had a little bit of extra left over last year, and we just weren't in a place to make that decision then. So I think we are now. So I'm working on that as well. Let's see, in terms of programs, there's the statistics around the director's report. 52 seniors last month in July. So this is all for July, with 201 sign-ins. So roughly those 52 people came once a week, if that makes sense. That's obviously different, but it could vary by person, for a total programming hours of 236.5. Keeping in mind that there was 4th of July and I was out 2 days, I think, for vacation. And July is probably a pretty light month in terms of senior center usage overall. People are vacationing, people have family visiting, those kinds of things. We had the same kind of standard 25 Meals on Wheels clients and 63 van riders. We had a couple of special programs like Supper Club going to Next Stop and to SS Lobster. Gage hosted Canna Curious, and the Ayer Cultural Council sponsored botanical printmaking and also an outdoor Dan Kerouac concert. We used this, the grassy shaded area just to the left of the parking lot, kind of between the fence and building B. And while it's not really level, it was level enough for box sandwiches, lunch. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that area if it had been pouring down rain for 2 weeks, nor would I feel comfortable with something like pasta that slides on a plate. But it worked. You were there, right?
It was a
Yeah.
fun afternoon.
Yeah, it worked.
It was a really good afternoon. Everybody enjoyed it.
Good. The York bus trip was rained out and got rescheduled for last week. It was, I think everyone had a nice time.
There was something rained out.
I know, right? I know. Isn't
What are
that
the
crazy?
odds?
Right?
Yeah.
Hard to believe. We started using the van to go to the farmers market once a month, and people can go anytime they want. Both the Groton and the Devon's farmers markets are hosted during times that the van is running and are both towns that we service. But we did an official outing in July and one in August to sort of introduce and encourage the idea of going to farmers markets. For those that have their EBT cards, their SNAP food benefits, you get extra $40 each month. It's part of the HIP program, Healthy Eating Initiative program, something like that. I'm getting the acronym wrong, but it's basically $40 above and beyond your regular food allowance. So you spend the $40, it gets debited out of your monthly balance, and then it's restored. And then we had farmers market coupons as well. Apparently in the past, Ayer didn't take advantage of the farmers market coupon program, which is kind of crazy. So Bach offers it. It comes from the state. And so it's a coupon booklet of $25, basically cash with their coupons for produce at any farmer's market, farm stand, any place that takes EBT or the farmer's market or HIP. Most farm stands are taking it. So that's $25. I have a few extra if you know of anyone who would like them. I would have to find the newsletters. I have a newsletter on them for the income requirements, but I want to say it was a max income of 23,000 something. So it's income enabled for a household of one. But it made it so that anybody who's living in senior housing kind of automatically qualifies. So
would it be okay, and this just spitballing here, would it be okay to like solicit all of those, bring them together and then sponsor some kind, that is, we're going to have a, I don't know, grilled vegetable and whatever thing, bring your coupons.
right.
And all the coupons are brought in together and then, you know, somebody goes to the market, you get them all to buy. You know what I mean? If people aren't using theirs or seem reluctant to apply for them.
Yeah. So I think people didn't know they existed before.
Okay.
And again, maybe it's because there was a farmer's market in Harvard and Devon's and Broughton, but not Ayer. Maybe that's why my predecessor didn't apply for them. I just asked for 10 coupon booklets this year because I wasn't sure how many people would be interested. I have 3 left over. They have to spend them though. So the senior has to come in and they fill out a form where they verbally attest that their income is below that. I don't check paperwork. It's a verbal attestation. And then they give it directly to the vendor. So I wish I could, that would be cool. But then even if I did buy a bunch of stuff, I could cook it here anyway.
Well, that's,
So,
never mind.
you know, yeah, so there's that.
The people from our building, don't ask me who they were. I met them coming in, that they had gone to. I think they had gone to the farmer's market. They were very pleased. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
they were very happy about.
Yeah, great. Great, yeah. So it's a great program. So I hope, hopefully the word will spread. I mean, it's been in the newsletter for like 3 months to come get your coupons. So hopefully that will grow over
But
time.
it's new.
Right. It's new to Ayer, yes. And they have until October 31st to spend them. So when you take the $25 on top of the $40 monthly reimbursement for the HIP, it's a great program.
Would it be, and I'm just trying to spend as much other people's money as I can. Would it be okay to take them to the farmer's market and have the coupons with you and anybody need their coupon, you know what I mean? Or do they have to apply prior to?
I mean, the sheet is attached to it. So, I mean, I could be there. I just don't know.
Or have the Vanguard?
Yeah, he could do it as well. It's just a matter of it would be just great chance, I suppose, that you would find somebody who was an Ayer resident, who was a senior, who made below the certain amount, that
Oh, I see.
happened to be at the farmer's market, being willing to pay full price for the item, and then be like, oh, bonus, you don't have to pay for it. It's possible. But definitely more outreach is needed, and word of mouth is good too. So, yeah, but that is, I do think we need to get, and the farmers markets have been very, they're welcoming them and they're getting reimbursed either way, right? So, and they've been very understanding with people with mobility issues and things like that, to get them the produce that they need. So, yeah, so that is good. Let's see, pickleball started this month. If you haven't been down to Peroni Park to see the lines on the parking lot, that's great. People are curious. I've had 1, 2, or 3 people come each week. It's been really hot, so I'm hoping that, you know, as we go on, people will be a little bit more interested as it cools off. I did just yesterday secure a pickleball teacher. So for mid-September through mid-October, we'll be offering an hour's lesson. And I'm gonna offer that for free. So you can take the lesson for an hour and then they can play
Yeah.
afterwards.
I didn't know there was a pickleball world
Yeah.
champion. They're broadcasting.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a special on TV the other day and I learned all about pickleball because I didn't know what it was. I thought it was kind of a strange thing.
Yeah.
It's named after the dog, Pickle. That
Oh.
was, the man who started this, who invented pickleball. He, when he would do his thing with the ball, the dog would chase the balls. And so they named it after him. So that's why it's
Oh,
pickle.
that's
pickleball.
adorable.
But they've already had tournaments
Mhm.
and that was on TV. It's the growing thing, I guess.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It's a combination of ping pong and tennis
Yeah.
activities on a smaller court.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I've been down on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. I go down and set it up about 8:30, and I come dressed to play pickleball and dressed pickleball, just in case there were odd numbers, and there have been every single time. There's if it's designed to be played like doubles tennis.
Yeah.
But if there are two seniors, then I have them play on their side, and then I play across the whole other side. So I'm getting exercise in as well, so that's good.
Katie, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Have you figured out how to score for doubles?
I have not. So luckily for me,
It's not easy, it's complex.
it is. It is. Luckily for me, the people who have come so far have been very early on, and we've done more, what do they call that, dinking back and forth.
Yeah.
Then we've worked on serving and what's a legal serve, and how to improve your eye-hand coordination and how to get set up to hit the ball. But we haven't had to do a lot of scoring yet. So that's why I'm looking forward to the instructor so that I can pass that off to her. And her name is Sue. She works with Littleton Parks and Rec and is gonna come do lessons for us as well. She came highly recommended from some people that play pickleball and thought it would be a good fit. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I think that's great. This is really a huge success in so many places. That's great.
And then let's see. Oh, so volunteers, that's the next thing. Volunteers, I'm pleased. It's one of those things I would have liked to have had volunteers in place 6 months ago, but it takes a certain amount of work to get it organized, to be ready to give volunteers a job. So we finally had in June the volunteer information session and had about a dozen or so volunteers, and most of them are placed doing things like reception, administrative help serving the lunch like Sister Paula does. Seasonal decorator, the sunshine coordinator is what I just playfully named the person who I'm going to put out a box. If people know that someone is struggling or could use a note of encouragement from the senior center, then they put that information in the box, and then that person will confidentially write them a note, and it's just nice community outreach. So that's a statistic I will start to report on in addition to the programs. So for July, where we were just getting started in July, I had 7 volunteers, worked a total of 30 hours, and not all of them are in senior tax work off, but I think monetizing what they're doing is a great way to measure the impact that they have for our department and for our budget and the value to the town. I mean, I already inherently know their value, but that value is at minimum wage, which is what the senior tax work off does, is $437. So in Townsend, that number was up in the $60,000 for the end of the year.
Really?
So the value when you get good volunteers in doing good work, leading programs, working as receptionists, helping with all of these things, it works out to be a department head to assistant department head salary. And that is a real value to the town. So that's something that takes time. But that is my goal, is to really build that. And it's not only helpful to the department for all of the tasks that the volunteers are doing, but it's also very good for seniors to have that role, to have that responsibility, to feel needed, to keep certain skills sharp, and then just social interaction of being here and engaging with the staff and the other seniors. So it's a win-win situation. Let's see, I'm gonna save the new building update because that's gonna be its own thing. The van is busy. We are going to add, in September, we're gonna add Fitchburg and Concord onto the service area. Sam and I are both excited about it. We discussed it. If it turns into a nightmare, we can always pull those two back off again. But by adding Fitchburg and Concord, we're adding 2 major hospital systems. And I think among our most frequent riders right now, they have already adjusted to being at the Steward Group at Neshoba, because that's the only place we've offered for so long. But for specialists and then for newer, younger seniors coming in, the idea of giving up your doctor just because you don't want to drive there is, that's difficult. Yeah, so, and so then those days will be just like any other day, in the sense that Leominster Fitchburg will be Monday mornings and Friday will be Acton Concord. So those will be blocked, which means that if you're getting a local doctor's appointment, it needs to be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, or Monday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon. And there's a grid in the newsletter that says when we're servicing each town. Hopefully there won't be too many growing pains about that. If people are used to calling up and saying, can you take me to Shop and Save in 2 hours? That though we have asked for 48 hours in advance, we have often been able to accommodate people. There may be some give and take that's required, but for the people that would like to go to these other towns, I think that's important, and I want to try and see if I can meet more needs.
I have a question and a comment.
Yeah.
When a person calls in, do they reach you at the senior center, or did we go to this dispatch thing?
We did not go to dispatch. Mart had, they kind of were leaping ahead, and then as it turned out, they weren't really ready. And so they pulled back again. If we wanted to do regionalized dispatch, we still can. I have held off because it's confusing, and then knowing that they're working on ride software now too for scheduling, and for the trip manifests, I just thought it was, rather than make these transitions one at a time, let's see what the whole package ends up looking like and then move forward from there. So it's working out fine, especially now having an extra staff member and the volunteers to help answer the phone. But it's all still local here. And it
Okay,
was also
thanks.
getting very confusing with the other towns I have heard that are using the regionalized dispatch. It hasn't been a smooth process, and it's been frustrating. They're scheduling rides to Waltham at 8 p.m. You know, the van doesn't do that, despite the fact that there's forms for me to fill out that says this is where we go at what time and whatever. It hasn't been as smooth, so I'm glad we're not doing it right now. Who knows?
Well, in my comment, with the second part of my comment, I think it's good to include Concord. That whole Emerson complex has really grown over the years.
Absolutely.
You have the hospital and the John Cummings building, and there's a specialties building now. There's another medical building. There's just so much over there. It's really, it's a good thing.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of potential, and like the other towns that we service, it's not limited to medical appointments. So I don't know if for some reason you were really jonesing for a slice of cake from Concord Tea Cakes, you could go. I mean, I don't know that anyone's going to do that. And we obviously always prioritize medical appointments above anything else. But, you know, if people have, I mean, if they have a friend who was able to get into senior housing or whatever, but they had to move to Concord in order to do so, and they're feeling isolated and removed, then, you know, we're more than happy to take people for social visits to those towns as well.
That's good to know.
How do you, is it just kind of word of mouth? How do you solicit input about are there other places you'd like to go, or where would it be helpful for you to be able to bring you? Is it just
Right.
kind of,
Well, so it's a combination of things. When I first started, I think it might have been that November newsletter. I put a little survey in the back and I asked people, and Concord and Leominster, Fitchburg, and Waltham were the main things that people asked for. So I'm
so
never gonna add
they give you the
Waltham.
name of the city?
They gave me the name
Oh,
of the
okay.
city.
They're not saying, I want to go to Concord TK's, or I want to go
No.
to.
No, I just asked if there are other towns. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, we're never gonna be able to service Waltham. That would take the van out of service the entire day for one appointment.
What's the draw?
I think there's some specialists there.
Mass General.
Mass General
Yeah.
West has
Yeah.
a large
They have a
outpatient.
So, but we can, I think if we're offering Leominster, Fitchburg, and then also offering Concord, I think we're getting again 3 health systems now, Stewart and who owns the one in Leominster's Memorial, right? He has Memorial, Reliant, yeah. So I
That's a
mean,
big one.
we're just getting, then we can really offer a comprehensive, people don't need to make their healthcare decisions based on where they can get a ride. We can take them where they can get the best care that they choose for themselves. Right,
So you got 2 big ones there.
yeah, so, let's see. I'm looking forward to adding the per diem driver because the evening programs between the concert we went to last week over in Acton and the supper clubs, they're all very popular, but I can't work Sam more than 40 hours a week. So, or I have to pay him overtime and there's no overtime budget, nor do I want to run him ragged, right? So I'm excited to have a per diem driver on when we get started. They're 8 hours a month initially. Speak of the devil, we were just talking about you.
I'm talking about
He's fabulous and I couldn't bear to lose him,
wonderful.
so I need to make sure I'm treating him well. So I want to make sure we have the per diem driver in place when it's my turn in the hiring queue. They're funded for 8 hours a month, so basically that's a 2-hour outing once a week, right? So that's really gonna free up, because right now, let's say if Sam's spending 2 hours at the concert last Friday night, then I needed to block his time 2 hours someplace else in the schedule. And so if someone needed a ride Thursday morning from 8 to 10, we weren't available to take them. So this will allow us to run the 40 hours a week that we normally do, plus the evening programs. So that will be exciting. Then the only last things, a couple of miscellaneous things. The MCOA, the Massachusetts Councils on Aging, excuse me, their annual conference is October 19th to 21st in Falmouth. So I will attend that. It's a great conference. They offer, they have in the past, let me preface it, they have in the past offered free admission to COA board members if you're willing to be like a room monitor, if you're willing to pass out the surveys at the beginning and collect them in the end. Just a lot of really great topics. I think I sent out a link via email last month about that. Sorry, I'm talking too much. So if anyone is interested in that, let me know and we can see if we can.
In the town pay for your attendance there
They can, yeah.
and the hotel room and all the rest of it?
So they do a nice job. It's Seacrest Hotel, I think. Down there. So
So you're saying for you, Katie, you get free admission and you get a hotel, but not board members? We would volunteer or
no, mine
something?
is paid. Everything is paid. Just a second, let me get a drink of water here. So no, mine is paid. So the conference, I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, including all meals, the evening events, all the talks, I think is like $500 or something like that. But the hotel is only like $130 a night, so I won't stay. I'll drive down very early Wednesday morning, so I would only stay Wednesday and Thursday night. So
then you were saying that if a board member wanted to go, we could go for the day and volunteer, like greet people or something, and then you could go to a couple of programs?
right, yes.
I've done that before at other conferences. It actually worked out really great.
Yeah. There's, for example, a 2-part workshop on the building process for building a new building. There's ones about all of the various social service programs. There's ones about rebranding your center. There are ones about best practices for, evidence-based falls prevention. There's one, it runs the whole gamut. The last day is new director training. I did that a million years ago when I wasn't a director because I was curious, but I'll actually do the new director training on Friday, just to make sure I've taken in all that I can take in. But yeah, I think there's things that are of interest that I can't be, and there's so many concurrent sessions, right? You can't be at everything you want to be at the same time. So if anyone is interested in going down for the day, I can help arrange that. I presume they are still doing that arrangement that they have done in the past. Let's see. For CDBG funds, those are the last fiscal year I had $5,000 to use towards food insecurity. And I believe Karen, before I arrived, had spent some of that on emergency food boxes. And then I rolled that into starting the meals program here with the catered food and the restaurant food and the restaurant deliveries, because by the time I arrived, I said it was more important for people to get back out into the world, into the senior center, to combat the isolation than it was to 2 years in continue to be isolated, because isolation is the health detrimental equivalent of smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Isolation is deadly. So that was where all of the Lucia's delivery, the Lazy Mary's delivery, all of the meals that we offered Wednesday and Thursday in-house that were not mock meals last fiscal year came out of those funds. This year I have a dining program budget, which is wonderful. But they are they're possibly going to extend, the federal government is possibly going to extend that those funds. And Alicia and I talked about from economic development, talked about how I might use 5,000 extra dollars. And so I would not use them in the same way. I would use them. One of the things we talked about is I have my, well, you can't see it right now, there's stuff behind it, but I have my lovely cart with my bins in it. People loved apparently the senior store before the pandemic, and was selling basic personal care items, some small food items. And we talked about having some elements of the senior store and having the cart go through the buildings and come over to Pleasant Street as well, and offer like a coupon in the newsletter for 5 free items per person per month or something, or whatever is a meaningful amount that we're contributing towards food insecurity, as well as using food boxes as a way to have the new social worker or the new outreach coordinator go out into the community and make house calls and to bring with them a basket of goodies to help introduce and make that process a little more inviting and enticing, and
The welcome wagon.
a welcome wagon. I like it. Yep.
But it's
We're doing an ice cream social on August 26th. And if anyone would like to come and help scoop ice cream, that would be amazing. If anyone wants to come and eat ice cream, that would be fantastic too. So Then let's see, if you can remember to sign in at the My Senior Center kiosk for board meetings, that's helpful because you are volunteering during this hour. So there is, 5 more hours of volunteerism each month when you guys sign in as board member for your meeting. And then last but not least, we are getting a hydroponic garden, which is exciting. Yeah. So, aging service, no, the Central Massachusetts Area Agency on Aging partnered, they got a food insecurity grant, and they partnered with an organization called Together We Eat that does hydroponic farming. So they are bringing us a hydroponic farm on Friday, I think. So it is about 4 feet by 6 feet, and it's wall mounted, and it's gonna go on to that wall right there that has nothing on it. So the water reservoirs sit on the bottom, and then it has 5 tubes that will hold 70 plants. And then it has the lights, the grow kit lights on it as well. So it's a fully self-contained unit. And he will have the first session, we decided Mondays at lunch, Mondays or Tuesdays at lunchtime. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. And then he comes once a week to check on the unit and then to offer an educational program about hydroponic farming. So then the people that come, each senior center is doing it in a different way. There's a couple of different, I think they've given the farms to a lot of different agencies, but mostly senior centers. So Leominster, for example, has a commercial kitchen. So they are harvesting everything to use in their kitchen. No, not Leominster. Hudson or Clinton, they have a commercial kitchen. Leominster does not. Leominster is like us. And so they are, they're handing theirs out to the people who are there. They get to harvest them. They get to harvest something and take it home with them. So I think that'd be cool. It's going to be mostly different kinds of lettuces and things like that. So, yeah.
Lettuce will fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 4 feet by 6 feet, that's a fairly substantial growing area.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So that is exciting. So they are going to monitor it. They are going to provide the seeds. They're going to provide the growing solution, all of that. So
When.
I know, right? So
That is awesome.
yeah,
That sounds like so much fun, and you don't even have to do the work, it sounds like.
I know. That's what makes it the most fun. So
I
yeah,
want one here.
she said I don't even have to do the work for it. I said yes, that's what makes it fun. So I think yes, right?
That is awesome.
So that's all I've got. Any questions on the director's report?
Where is the next hub?
Oh, downtown by the,
It's
Used to
Old
be
Garland.
Garland's.
Yeah.
Ah,
the old.
fair enough, all right.
We do one supper club in town and one out of town.
No, I mean, I've eaten there, I think once, but I just.
I have to tell you, those are the best. Everybody loves them.
Oh, good.
Going out.
Supper clubs,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's going where?
Going out at night dinner.
Oh,
It's just places nobody would,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the idea is that you have that social dinner with other people.
Yeah.
The van is taking you, so you don't have to worry about traffic or driving after dark or any of finding a new place, any of those things that get to be a pain or impossible as you get older. And
Some of us drive by ourselves, but we
Right.
meet in groups and we drive. Some take the bus, but we have a blast. And yeah, it's fun. It's
Yeah.
just fun.
I'm taking anywhere from 8 to 12 people on the
Yep.
bus, and then another 4, 6, 8 drive themselves. So we
Yep.
regularly have a party approaching 20.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's fun. We just,
Yeah, no, that's a great thing.
so where have you been?
oh, I did not do the lobster place. I was out of town. I didn't do the New Collins, the next stop. I was out of town.
The what?
Next stop.
Next.
We've been to, what was the one in Townsend?
Oh, Townsend House,
That was nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Ocho, Mexican.
I didn't do that. I was out of town.
Yeah.
I told you, Dennis, I've been out of town.
We've been to Johnson's Dairy Bar in
Johnson's,
Groton.
yeah, which a lot of us had not been to in years. We always commented.
Chinese, of course.
Chinese. We went to Marco's.
Look up the
I
list
would
again
have to look
see.
up.
The new Mexican place at that?
We have not
We
been
have
there
not
yet.
Been there.
We should do that.
We have not been there.
We went to the 99
Yeah.
over in Westford, and we also went to, what was the
The
place that
one
everybody
in
hated?
Acton.
The brewery that's also in
Ras-
Stockbridge or Sturbridge.
Rapscallion.
Oh, yeah, Rapscallion. Yeah, yeah. Everyone hated that one.
Well, only because the room was so small and it was so loud that a lot of the,
Right. Yep.
you know, it was like, have you been to the Wayside Inn?
Long time ago.
A long time, right? And it was just a really small room.
Oh, okay, all those colonial structures.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Acton.
Active. But most of the places have just been fun.
That's good.
We were gonna go to the Sunset Tiki Bar over in Westford. That's at the base of the Neshoba Ski Club.
Yep.
They've got live music and it's like being at the beach because you walk through a little bit of sand in order to get there, but then the actual dinner is up on a boardwalk or a deck.
Yeah.
They've got live music and everything, but that was during that heat wave. So it
Oh.
was almost 100 degrees. It's like, we can't eat outside when it's 100 degrees. So we went to a different place instead, to Ocho.
We did the Broad Country Club.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the public house,
Where?
over
Their public house.
the public house over at the Groton Country Club.
Is
Yeah.
that nice?
It was fun. It was fun. It was good. The food was.
It's like any sort of pub kind of
Yeah.
place that you would eat at after you were done golfing.
All that matters is the food good and the company's good.
Yep.
So, the building committee, the building committee, had initially planned on meeting this morning, and I don't have a more recent update, but in any case, that meeting was pushed off for a week. But, as you're probably aware, the search continues. The one site under most active consideration now is the Crawford Tiny at Park Street there at the bend. There are wetlands issues that will need to be looked into and potentially resolved. Whether or not that property is in fact up for sale or consideration, or whether the owner would like to kind of participate in that with us is unclear at this time. So-
We ever on Bishop Street,
What's that?
would the entrance be on Bishop Street?
It seems like, well, actually, Katie proposed that
Yeah.
initially, so. you
Yeah,
can
I
tell them.
proposed that idea to enter off of Bishop to get rid of that tricky intersection. And after it was looked at in a little bit more detail where the easement would need to come from, they said that there's no way that that's feasible, because it would be involved getting an easement from the railroad. And that's, they said, historically impossible. So, but we did look at, there's been some traffic studies for modifying that intersection that's already under consideration, and then there's work scheduled to be done to Park Street. I don't know where that work would end, where it becomes Fitchburg Road, I'm not sure. And then we just talked about, unlike the original drawings from the feasibility study that everyone else has seen, trying to make sure that the entrance is all the way down at where the motel is, rather than anywhere near that intersection. It's still not my favorite. It's, in terms of traffic, like, I wish it was different, but right now we're kind of flushing through all of the different options to make that work. I'd rather have a site with a well thought out traffic plan than no site. So we're gonna work that out on that and see, there's of course wetlands issues, there's potential environmental issues everywhere, so,
More to come.
more to come.
Okay, but,
Got it.
and it's, as this process says, I think we all would have hoped that we would be a little further along, having a site selected, or at least have a well-defined group of possibilities. But it's clear that there are no perfect sites. That there are trade-offs involving all of them, either size or traffic or convenience or walkability. And those trade-offs are going to have to be made no matter, or environmental contamination. So there are going to be trade-offs involved. The hope is that the building committee will be able to recommend a site that the entire town can get behind. Because just because, the building committee likes it, or the senior center writ large likes it, doesn't mean it's going to necessarily gain broad support from the town meeting
Right.
on the floor. And that ultimately, we, because we're all a part of that, will decide that. So hopefully we will be able to kind of gain public support for the most desirable or least objectionable possibility available.
I was surprised if there weren't more people who wanted to sell the land.
No, I was flabbergasted by that myself. I don't know. I don't know if they got any more, given that there was a newspaper article written,
Right.
video that Katie participated in, and
Front page.
It was on the front page. It was a little frustrating. I got misquoted a couple of times. I'd like it to be said officially for the record. I got misquoted a couple of times. But yes, it's nice to have publicity.
But we got, I think, one response, which I think Janine had kind of single-handedly generated the enthusiasm for in response to the RFP.
Well, I would like to say a word on the RFP,
Yeah,
because I'm the one who brought it up at the building committee 2 or 3 times before they said they would give it a try. And my original plan was for it to be an appeal for land, but also to go to every household to make them aware we're actively trying to find a piece of land and get this job done. And in the end, I believe 9 places were contacted or contacted the town. That was not my original vision for an RFP. And I know one of them was me. So it sounds like 8 was from the town. That's disappointing. That's disappointing to me.
Janine, how did you come up with 8 or 9?
I believe Carly answered my question. The meeting before last, I couldn't attend the last one because I had a conflict. I had to take my husband to a medical appointment in Concord. So there was no van available for him. And so I had a direct conflict, so I couldn't attend. So it was the meeting before that that I directly asked, and Carly said 9 places. And as
9
Dennis
places.
so graciously mentioned, I had contacted a real estate agent directly that I had been acquainted with, and he generated the only written RFP, and only 9 total places. Sounds like they were even nibbling.
Oh, so just to clarify, you mean that we received 9 proposals back? You don't mean
No,
that
I believe
we
just the
found
one.
9 places?
I believe just the one proposal back, and 9 places total had some sort of interaction.
Right, okay, yeah, but the RFP itself went out to several hundred. It's just a matter of what we got back. I just wanted to clarify, because when you said that, I thought you meant.
Well, then maybe Carly answered it incorrectly, because I thought she said they only contacted 9 people. Maybe she means 9 nibbles, where there was some sort of response, but not a completed RFP. That
Yeah,
would
I
be
think
something to
I think
clarify.
that's worth clarifying with her, because even just Alan Minoyan's economic development email list that went out, it got more than 100 people on it.
Oh, well, that's somewhat good to hear then. At least they tried. But I was hoping they would use it as a vehicle to really generate enthusiasm also. And in fact, I had worked on with their permission, I thought, had worked on a draft accompanying letter from Mr. Pomprian. And I don't know, it just, to me, it was disappointing. It was really not the response we all hoped for in the end.
So the search continues, and we'll see. The building committee is meeting next Wednesday. And at that time, we hope to know whether or not that lot across from Tiny's is or is not under consideration. That is, whether or not the owners are interested in having further conversations. Hopefully they will be, and then a more thorough investigation can commence. If they're not,
That's what the drawing board.
yeah, and there are a couple of things that this has highlighted, which are kind of, I think, broader issues for the town. One is that obviously the Devon's disposition and the available land there, and what, our inability to access it or inability to actively engage with that entity is problematic in this regard. But secondly, I think our lack of a small town newspaper is deeply problematic on any number of levels.
I agree.
And our ability to drive public opinion, or to solicit public input, or to raise concerns of a public nature that our elected representatives should be attending to, our ability to kind of monitor collectively town services and how those things are going and be aware of issues of concern for the population is severely handicapped by our lack of. Now, I'm not on social media, so I don't know to what extent various Facebook groups or Twitter handles or Instagram collections have taken up some of that slack. But I think that towns which do have an active and engaged local media whose representatives are attending the select board meetings or planning board meetings, or this meeting for that matter, and are raising questions or following issues and then publishing it, once a week, let's say.
I used to read it cover to cover.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think those towns are in a better position to kind of generate public views of things and communicate the needs. So I just wanted to put that out there, Janine, if you're interested in starting a newspaper.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm wondering what we could use, in lieu of a newspaper. If we could, I don't know, have a section of the newsletter every month that's like where we're at on the building, or if we could do something on our Facebook page. I'm not really a social media follower, except I had to finally cave to Facebook because there's just so much I would miss without it. People's funerals, I hate to say it, they post them on Facebook. Gatherings of larger groups of people, often on Facebook, personal stories. So, I hear you, Dennis, because I have complained for a long time that we just don't have the newspaper coverage that we used to have. If you go in Carly's office, she has some little newspaper out for people to take. I can't even remember what it is. Is it the Sentinel? Is it from Fitchburg? It's not the Lowell Sun. It's some smaller paper.
Neshoba Valley Voice.
Yeah, I mean, there
What
are.
is it?
Neshoba Valley Voice, is that it? Because they're the same entity
Oh, okay.
as the Lowell Sun.
But I don't know how well it's read because I didn't even know it was still being published before I happened to see it on her desk. But there must be some sort of effort that we could do,
Well, but when I was saying I think the town, more broadly than just the senior center, that is, I think, it's just becoming, over the last year and a half or so, it's just become more aware of our lack of a town newspaper and the impact. And people have been writing about this for 25 years since, you know, the media conglomerates bought them all up and the internet put them all out of business.
Right.
I mean, this is not news to a lot of people who have been watching this show over the last 30 years, but it never really hit home to me until just recently.
So the ones that still exist are, what did you call it? The Neshoba Valley Voice?
And Harvard has the Harvard Press, which is, you know, in the Groton Herald,
Groton has.
and the larger cities, obviously. I don't, you know, I know Fitchburg, Leominster has one, or Fitchburg, two different ones.
There's
But-
something, the Sentinel. I wonder if that's the Fitchburg one. I don't know. But who reads them? That's another thing. You can get a good article in a paper, but if nobody's really getting it delivered, when my daughter was younger, she had a Lowell Sun paper route, and there were enough people in the neighborhood where we lived in Westford at the time. But she had a paper route after work that was a money-making proposition. On my street now, and I think in the whole neighborhood, I know of one Lowell Sun box where you put it in under their mailbox, and it's probably delivered by an adult in the car now. But, you know,
But I
that's,
think that is for the citizen, for our purposes, that is for the people who live in Ayer, having dedicated, locally focused town news that are talking about, you know, publishing the COA newsletter, that are, you know, discussing Devon's disposition issues, or the siting of the senior center, or the high school baseball team, or, you know, the pickleball tournament that's coming, or the town budget, and, you know, welcoming new employees, or, you know, what have you. All of those, I frankly am frequently not aware of them, or in the run-up to town meeting. You know, the conversations about what the warrant articles are, what they mean. And you hear editorials going back and forth between various people, or letters to the editor, and you'll get squabbles going on about various, you know, issues of public concern.
I feel like the public access television was filling a gap for a while. They had a lot of programs on it, and I used to watch some of them. But a lot of us are doing away with cable. I don't even have access to that anymore.
I mean, so it's an interesting dilemma, but I
Public access. Yeah. I just want to be mindful of our time. We have a hard stop in 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, it's good food for thought, Dennis, on
Okay.
how to get the word out there.
What happened to the parks and recreation thing that you were talking about?
So we looked at the site plan and where Jeff Thomas, the head of Parks and Rec, had offered to share land, which is down where the basketball courts are. The architect ultimately, after some back and forth, the architect ultimately said he didn't think that piece of land was large enough, that he thought the architect's opinion was that we should look at the greater configuration of Brody Park and determine if there is a reconfiguration of the whole park that could happen in order to make it happen. My sense was that that was a much bigger step than what was initially offered. He hasn't said yes or no to that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that we were interested in exploring that in tandem, but that made us kind of lean a little bit more towards Park Street. But I think that's an ongoing discussion. Did I characterize that well?
I think so.
The flood zone.
Yeah, I guess it's flood zone down there.
Yeah, it's a flood zone.
at the Carroll Center.
Yeah, it's a flood zone, and yeah, I mean, there's just also not a lot of space.
So it's
There.
a great place.
I know.
It's, and yeah, I mean, there's probably more to come on that depending on how Park Street goes, so. Hopefully we'll have an update after next week and know a little more.
Well, I have an interest in pursuing Devon's, and I keep coming up against a brick wall as far as getting information. I was okayed by the town managers to try to do some due diligence, at least start to organize it, to get some due diligence done on some sites that they had mentioned, somebody at Devon's had mentioned quite a while ago, and the town managers have not gotten me the list of those properties. I was starting to go through my old notes, months of them, because I thought maybe I had written down those properties, but I haven't located in my own notes yet. If Katie has a list, even a partial list, I would like to start to organize some of that. I mean, it's just some of the most open land that's around, and it's going to be part of Ayer, most like 99% sure in my book by about 2030. And there have been other projects that have been built on Devon's. Shirley has a whole complex with the fire and the library, police. My son went to a school that was purchased from Devon's. The prisons, of course. The loaves and fishes that was purchased for $1 and a can of peas. I mean, the potential is there. And I don't think it's like a done deal by any chance. And they seem very disorganized over there. But I think it behooves us to do some due diligence there as we would for any other possible property. And I'm kind of frustrated because I can't even help if I can't get the information that's been promised to me.
So, I mean, I have the list at one point, the roads were told to us during, I never had a parcel number or anything like that from our building committee. I'd be happy to pass that on to you.
Okay, that would be more than I have right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the main issue with Devon's has been not having staff in the legal or real estate divisions. So it's, even if there was a piece of land that we could all agree was great, it's how would you even execute the deal, right? So I think that's going to take, like Janine said, some persistence. And I appreciate you being willing to spearhead that, because I think we kind of have to have a lot of irons in the fire at once here in order to make this happen in any given time.
Well, that's the thing, and one of the irons in the fire. And Dennis mentioned once, these people, they should be answering to us. Maybe we can get our state reps involved or something, because they're public servants. If they're not doing their job, then maybe somebody could appoint somebody else who could fill in for them. It's just months and months of inaction is really inexcusable.
I understand your frustration, and I know that Robert is very much aware of it. The board is very much aware of it. The board, I think, was on the phone with the director of mass development, Mr. Rivera.
I'm sorry, they were on the phone, did you say? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, he was unable to attend in person, but he did call in or Zoom to a meeting a month ago, and select board meeting, and they were asking him to come to the select board meeting last night, and he got in touch and said, unfortunately, he had a conflict and couldn't make it. So that has been pushed to sometime in the future.
And what person is that? So I can put it in the notes. I missed the name.
Dan Rivera, who's the executive director of mass development. So all of this to say that the issues between the town of Ayer, mass development, and the Devon disposition concerns go well beyond the scope of what we're going to be able to deal with, I think. But I fully understand your frustration with not having, a willing partner in that regard.
Well, and it's even more frustrating because it's not a private enterprise. This is a public entity that's supposed to serve the constituents. In fact, if you go on their website, it's all like flag waving about how they help communities and help their constituents. Well, not so far here.
So in terms of the door repair, and actually, I think it was at the facility, hope you say that, I reached out to Robert again. Robert was gonna reach out to that, so I don't know whether or not he spoke with him.
Was that Chuck that dropped by?
He might have. I think he spoke to that engineer. I didn't.
I didn't know
look
he
at
was
it.
coming to see him. So Chuck did come by last week and look at the door and determined it's not broken. It's actually it's working as designed, but for whatever reason, there are different ways that the doors can latch, but this one is what you would call a classroom door. So that when it closes, it cannot be opened from the outside. It can only be opened from the inside unless you have the key. So that latch is actually functioning the way it's supposed to. Why that particular kind of door latch was chosen there, I don't know. Housing must have had a reason for that. But so the door can't be fixed because it's not broken. That door handle and latch could be removed and a new door handle and latch put in. It's just a matter of what that would involve and what the cost is. So, I mean, I had no idea how complex the system was at town hall until Chuck was telling me about it. It's incredibly complex and incredibly expensive. So it does what it's supposed to do, but I don't think we're not looking to recreate that here. So he was gonna reach out and see what options there are. And then obviously it's the housing authority's building, it's the housing authority's door. Then we would need to loop them in and see where they are in terms of the solution.
But we were able to come in that door forever. It's a different door.
It's the same door since I've been here. It's been that door. So it's possible that the door was at one time operating differently and then that
Yeah.
door broke and then the only door they could replace it with was the classroom style door. I don't know.
I
Okay.
can't
But
remember
this-
if they did that.
this
I remember
particular
it used to be
door.
able to
What?
Get in and out very easily.
Yeah.
But it seems to me it's something at the top of the door that's either on or off. We had trouble with that, I know, every once in a while, but, yeah. Too bad, yeah.
Could you just specify which door for the minutes? Because I'm not sure.
The front door of the senior center.
So Katie had previously asked that we get the latch fixed so that you no longer had to push the handicap accessible blue button, but rather you could simply pull the door open. That does not seem, the door is operating as designed evidently, and
Yeah.
whether or not it's worth pursuing, trying to get a whole new door, a whole new latch system. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, I don't know.
My concern is that we have such poor visibility from the road to begin with. It's so hard to find us. And then when someone comes down, they walk up to a door and people reasonably assume that when they pull on the handle of a door, it will open. And when it doesn't open, they assume we're closed. I have had more than one person say to me, "Oh, I came by yesterday at 2:00 and you were closed." And I'm like, "We weren't closed. I was right there," you know? So, but they're like, "Oh, I tried to open the door and it was locked." I said, "Oh, you have to push the handicap button. The door won't open without that." And they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." So we're trying to encourage, you know, I'm incredibly grateful for the 50 to 70 people that we have in the building each month. I love this tribe and they're fantastic, but that number needs to be exponentially higher. And we are just not doing ourselves any favors when the front door doesn't even open like it's supposed to. So from my perspective, it does need to be changed.
Okay.
Obviously that comes down to what the cost is, right? But I would not hesitate to put in a capital request to get the
Well,
door fixed.
Right, but I think that, I mean, my reaching out to Robert was
Was based on it
elevate
being broken, yeah.
But just to kind of elevate the concern and say that this is, so I think at this point, I think Robert needs to engage with the housing authority and kind
Right,
of look for a solution.
Yep,
Um,
yep. So thank you for doing that, because it has now been escalated to the point where we know what the issue is, because I had put in a work order and I was told that there was a pin that was broken and all that. Now we know definitively that that's not the case. So they can't fix a problem if you don't really know what it is.
That's what I was gonna ask. On my classroom door, we had pins. It's not that we could slide in and out for intruders.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
so
not up there.
So that was what I was originally told by housing, was that there was a pin and it was irreplaceable and whatever. So I thought the door was broken. But perhaps, and I'm speculating here because Chuck works on all the doors at public safety in town hall and all the other buildings in town. So he doesn't, I think he felt like he knew what he was looking at there. The door, that's not the way the door functions. So if I had to guess, and I'm literally just guessing here, is that the door at one time in the past did have the pin. Maybe the pin broke. They had to replace it with a different kind of door and ended up with the door latch, the classroom door latch instead. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Chuck was here for a while and took a look at it and he said,
No, we
Yeah.
had to open the door and do it with the key up the top.
Could you put something, maybe you would want to do this because the bulletin, the newsletter goes out to the whole town. Just put in a small thing, just remind people to enter the building and have to use the handicap thing during hours
Right.
of operation, you know, like, you don't want to say at 7 o'clock at night, it's not gonna work. But as soon as the center is open from say 8 to 4, that little handicap thing is working, but after 4 o'clock, it's not going to. I don't know. I don't know if you,
I mean, I
it's
think-
running through my brain. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Oh, no, I think anytime we can put something in the newsletter to remind people is
Yeah.
great. It's unfortunately it's not the people who are currently using the center, you know,
Yep.
who need to do that.
But
It's the people that are coming for the first time, or any number of the delivery people who are bringing the catered food in, or any of those other things.
It's an obstacle that exists or ought to exist. But I just want to move on.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I know
yeah.
time is running short.
Yeah.
Want to try to get through that. So in terms of the COA board vacancy, so I've reached out to Robert and Marge. So the vacancy has been posted. It needs to be posted for 2 weeks, which Robert assures me it was posted last week. I will check on that again with them being town hall. And Marge has reached out to town manager, expressing her interest. At the end of the 2 weeks, the process would be that town manager would notify us that there is an interested candidate for the board of directors seat. We would then meet and approve that. We would then notify the town manager that the board is on board with this appointment. Town manager puts it on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen, nominating and approving, and then the Board of Selectmen. So all of this to say that it is the Board of Selectmen who must approve Marge being on the Board of Directors here. And that can only occur after the 2-week posting has gone through. So that's where we are with that.
That was a good summary, Dennis. I didn't realize that all that chain of command had to be contacted. Marge, you're very important.
Sure.
I hope it all works out and I hope you get officially on board. We'll have to have donuts or something.
We discussed the Mass Council on Aging Fall Conference, which is in Falmouth. If you're talking, the brochure that they had, the PDF, the kind of the large, Seacrest code. I couldn't find where in the state it was. That is, I had no idea
Oh, gotcha.
that it was in, so I had to go on the web and
Oh,
look
that's
for.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, that's coming up in October, and Katie has mentioned that, and Katie will be attending, which is great. Any old business that people, any questions that are lingering? Folks wanna
I have an old business.
go?
In all this discussion on the door, we had talked about some security for the center. And I'm wondering whatever happened with, some sort of notification says system, like a mat you step on, or a panic button like Katie said she had. And, all these ideas had come up. And I'm just wondering, where are we?
Well, so I don't think anything really happened with it. I think there were some good ideas there. If we finalize an idea we'd like to have, I can either look into my budget and see if there's space in my budget or talk to Chuck. Because that's kind of a shared thing between what comes out of my budget and what is facilities, unexpected facilities repairs. He is going to be out on medical leave shortly for a couple of weeks. So it's probably going to be until after he gets back before anything could be done. If anyone has a product that they like and they want to recommend to me, that would make it easier than researching all possible security options.
I think something like, the door is open and the door is easily opened, except it's not, but between the hours of 9 and 3, let's say, when people are coming and going all the time, the door is open. After a certain hour, it is closed and you have to ring the buzzer so that,
Yeah,
so that Katie or whomever would have to go and see who's on the outside before allowing them entrance.
But it's even during business hours. Now, let me preface it by saying I feel safe in the building. We say that. But even today, as an example, Denise and I were sitting, she was at her desk and I was sitting right behind Sister Paula. The delivery person for lunch was all the way back here before we had any idea she was even in the building, like within 5-6 feet of me. So even during regular hours, there's just.
How about a Nest Cam just connected to the Wi-Fi network and have the screen in one of the offices and you can see.
Are you trying to
Oh,
get
up
rid
by
of
the
me?
door.
That,
No,
that sound that they make. Oh, it's so
I've
annoying.
never had one. I don't know.
Google
What did
Cam-
they make a sound?
A
I
Google
thought
Home.
you-
Uh, Well, your phone or your computer will notify you. It makes the
Oh,
ding
does it
dong
really?
ring
Okay.
sound. That's how you know that someone went by. That's how it notifies you. So yeah, because it's not, I
No.
guess unless you had the window open on your computer screen at all times, yeah. Everyone
Well,
that
I think one of the simplest is those mats. I could probably buy it and install it myself. They have those mats that kind of go ding dong, and I think it's a hard wire that goes up over the door. And I think you can adjust the volume, so if you discover you can't hear it in the back.
Oh,
I
how
think-
about out there, like retail stores used to have,
That's what I was
when you
gonna
open
say.
the door, it chimes.
Yes, exactly. And it's often something you step on, and maybe you're unaware of it because it just looks like a welcome mat.
Yeah,
Or we could do the mid 19th century when they had the bell above the door, so when you opened it.
there
it
you're
was
really old school.
Yeah.
That's really old tech, yeah. We could get another volunteer, Katie, who could say, I'd like to announce that we
Oh,
have a visitor.
like a town, what do you call that? A herald. We need a herald.
That's right.
Hopefully the volunteers at the desk. When we
Well,
show
yeah.
up.
Right, well, that's the thing, having the volunteers at the desk certainly does help because they see someone who comes in, they greet the person, no one's being surprised. I don't have all volunteer shifts covered, but you're right,
When
that
we
actually
show up.
is a,
When we're not
when
out of
you
town.
guys
When
show
we're
up,
not out
right?
of town.
It is, but I think we want to avoid a situation where we feel like there needs to be somebody quote unquote monitoring the door.
Right,
That's not the
right.
purpose.
But
Well, a lot of senior centers do have somebody who basically watches the door. They might call it an information desk or whatever. I know in Westford, there's somebody right, as soon as you go up those like 4 steps, there's somebody right there. And Chelmsford had it, Concord had it, Groton has it. So it's pretty typical. And that way they can ask the person anything too. And if they can't figure out how to get in the door, maybe they can even help them with that.
Yeah, all right, I will look into some of these and see if there's anything I can find. It doesn't necessarily have to be a high ticket value. What? If you want to research it, that would be fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Well, as far as Dennis's mention of a camera, I don't know if he was joking or not, but we actually have a Ring camera over our garage because the way our house is set up, we can't see if somebody is at the garage door and there's no bell there. But what happens is it goes off for a lot of silly things, a bird, I don't know, the trees waving a certain way. So you do a lot of deleting. My husband takes care of it. He's always deleting. And then sometimes they will see a delivery man leaving down the street and it didn't go off. So they're kind of a pain.
Yeah, and so my mom has one and it goes off incessantly, but there's like a 30-second delay. So if you're using it for the purposes like we are, it would set it off and it would notify you that someone was here as they're walking into your office, right? So I like the idea of, and plus that you have to have the Wi-Fi working and all of that in order to make that work. So I think something simple, the pressure mat or a chime bell, the Herald, any of those.
Yeah. I'll get my stuff.
Yeah.
Apartment intercoms are another option, but that's not that easy. That has to be like, I think, hardwired all the way into where you want it to go off. Kind of like where you live, Sister Paula, that somebody buzzes it and then she unlocks the door, or I think she could speak to people, but that's not so easy.
No, I think that's more involved.
Mhm. Okay, thanks for listening.
Any new business that people wanna, or concerns that have arisen?
I already talked to Katie about this. In the past, we always had what we call a liaison from the police department who would come down. He was responsible for the senior citizens in the town of Ayer, checking up on them. And he would come down here, he'd be here, just drop in to see how things were going along. And if there was a problem, then it could be brought to the director, in the social work or whatever. So maybe in the next meeting, that could be brought up again as old business because we need to leave, so, but just to have a liaison with the police department and know that he's here if you need him, just call him. His name is Rogers, his last name, the one we had the last time, Officer Rogers. And it was, it was comforting, and a couple of times he came in, some people would ask him questions that was sitting here waiting for meals or just chatting. So just a connection. Fire department is very good because they sponsor activities for us. And it would be good.
Sister Paula, are you saying we don't have anyone right now? And Katie, I thought that he was still on the job.
I don't know if we have, I don't know who the person is. I haven't had any opportunity to engage with them. And so I think that's
Oh,
the point. A lot of
yeah.
centers
Yeah,
have
that's a good point, Sister Paula. Very good.
pop or something like that.
Yeah.
So to now that people are out and coming back in the building again and all of those things, I think it's a great program to restart.
Well, I think that the social worker may kind of be the bridge between the department and the senior center in terms of kind of engaging on public safety. Well, not so much on public safety issues, but just issues of concern that may be interdepartmental in nature.
I would think that they could work together, but I think he was a welcome presence. Sister Paula, can you hear me? If somebody could relay her, that I remember he was a very welcome presence.
People talking at once.
I'm
Sorry, it's
sorry, I
hard.
can't hear.
No, it's hard. The audio isn't very good with the laptop. So
I'm sorry.
no. I'm sorry. Which one of you? Just Janine, do you want to finish what you were saying and then?
Oh, I was just asking Sister Paula if she remembers if the officer, as I recall, was a very welcome presence. He was very nice and he got to know seniors and, on a superficial level. But that way, if he was ever called, then he wasn't a stranger. And when we have a social worker, I would imagine they could work hand in hand.
She's nodding her head. Yes, she's agreeing. Yeah. All right. So Kara, something.
Okay, I was just saying that the police that came to help me the night with the person I was telling you about, then I saw him here and he asked me about her and he checked on her at the hospital. And I was very impressed that, with that connection. It was important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of those things that's like, peeling an onion maybe or whatever, trying to get all of these varying levels of our operations back up again. And now having Denise in place has made it, taken a little bit of the pressure off me so that I can start looking at some of these additional programs. So yeah, I think that's definitely one to, I keep trying to sell the idea of Frosties with a firefighter and nobody will bite, but I'm like, I like the alliteration. I like it. So
Denise has been wonderful. I have to add.
she's fantastic.
She really has.
She's done a
And
great
she's
job.
learned everybody's name really fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's been great. She's.
All right,
Motion to adjourn?
Hey, just in time. Thank you.
So I was just gonna say, I think it's about that time.
CPC's next.
okay, all right. So, I think we can, I move, well, would somebody like to make a motion?
I so moved. Adjourn.
A second?
Second?
Okay, seconded, so meeting adjourned at 4 o'clock, let's call it.